Hi friends, Tiffany here. Welcome to my quilting life. Today, week 11, the start of week 11. Wow. I think I said that probably last week that this is going by so quick. Well, the weeks are at least, but the blocks, they're taking some time. Either way, we're having fun with it, right? So, if you didn't know, this is Skulliver, and we're doing a sew along with Skulliver. If you haven't visited Legit Kits, up here in the link, they also have other patterns, so you don't have to sew along with Skulliver. You can get another pattern and sew whatever your heart desires. They are all foundation paper pieced, and they're so much fun and very realistic. I mean, I love this. So I can't wait to get going with it and get the whole thing pieced together. But again, we need to piece all the blocks. So open up your books and grab out pages 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, and 73. So we're going to do 6 pages today, 68 through 73. I'm kind of keeping it low because I'm tired today, guys. I really am. Anyways, so I have all of my colors pulled out and ready to chop them up and get started. So I'm going to skip that step because you've seen in like 1 through 8 videos of me chopping everything up. So I'm pretty sure you got the general idea. Obviously a light box helps. So go ahead and pull out all your colors for pages 68 through 73 and let's get started sewing. All right, all my pieces are cut out. Let's get started. Page 68. We're going to start out with this lovely fellow that has 4 pieces to it. I'm going to go ahead and cut away the extra paper because we don't need it. And we're going to go ahead and fold on our lines. Right here. I wish this is the part that would go faster, but it does not. Ay, ay, ay. Even just folding 3 lines seems like a lot. There we go. Here we go. All right. Spot 1, QZ is balsam. All right. Let's see, which way did I cut this thing? That way? Oh, I did. I cut it that way. Let's stitch it down to hold it in place. It's too small for pins. We're going to go ahead and fold that line between 1 and 2. Make that wonderful cut with our add-a-quarter ruler and a rotary cutter. Toss the excess. We have a straight line, add 2, which is HG, hunter green. I have no idea which way I cut this. Oh, I cut it that way. So we're going to just add this right here. I'm going to roll it back and make sure that it covers. And it looks like it does. No, it does not. All right. Here. Nope. Come up a little. Right here. There it goes. Right there. So we're going to go ahead and put this over the other way. Hold it and sew it. Remember to use a 1.5 to 1.8 seam allowance, or I mean stitch length. Oh my goodness, I almost said seam allowance because I'm folding and didn't need to cut my seam allowance. But 1.5, 1.8-ish, it helps the paper rip away easier. I'm going to go ahead and put a little stitch to hold this guy down. I'm always stitching in the gray area. All right, let's go between 1 and 3 now. Again, just rip the paper away. It rips away quite easily if you have a nice seam, a stitch length. Why do I keep saying seam? Because I'm getting ready to do the seam. I must be tired. All right. It does take a lot out of me to cut all these pieces and prep them. All right, 3 is HG. Again, that's hunter green. I'm going to assume I cut it this way. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it to this side. Make sure, yep, that's what it is. We're going to go ahead and sew that. All right, I'm going to trim away a little bit of that seam allowance. It's kind of sticking out. It's just a sliver, but those slivers make a difference. All right, let's roll that back. When I say roll, I'm using my seam roller, and I do have a bit of shredding coming out of my seam. I want that gone. All right, between 3 and 4 now, so go ahead and rip your paper, fold on your line, create your seam allowance. All right, CK is, I have no idea. I'm looking, CK. Oh, I can't read it. It's cactus, right? Yep, cactus. I can't read all the way up over there. All right, this is not the way I cut it. Let's see, which way did I cut this? That way. So I'm going to turn it right here. This is the side that I want to sew, so I'm going to hold that, flip it to this side, line it up on there, hold it, flip it, sew it. And I'm going to make sure real quick that that didn't shift. Okay, good. It meets the point. We're going to cut that excess away. It's only a sliver again, but again, we don't want those slivers there because they are just too much. All right, let's roll that back. I'm spreading it with my fingers. I do not want to see any of my seam stitches, any of my stitches. I don't want to see those. And I just put a quick stitch right there to hold that piece down. And E6D, or page 68, part 1 is complete. Let's move that out of the way and move on. All right, page 68, part 2, or piece 2, or whatever, E6C. I'm going to get rid of the paper first because it's just in our way. We're going to fold on our lines. All right, lines are folded. Space 1 is NL, and L is nautical. Looks like I have it this way. Okay, let's take it up to the light. Right there. I'm going to put a stitch in it to hold it in place. And a stitch over here. It's within the seam allowance. It's holding it in place. Okay. Oh, no, no, no. We don't want that. Let's rip that off. Those stitches out of there. 2 seconds. Okay, let's try this again. I don't know if I had it that way. I think I had it this way. Because when I moved it, it wasn't an 1/8 of an inch. It was about an 1/8 of an inch seam, so I'm pretty sure I cut it this way. So now I'm going to sew it. I knew that was odd looking. Sewing it is just my pins. I don't want to use pins, so I'm just sewing it instead. I mean, I do have little dinky pins that I can use, but all right. Now we can move the light. Between 1 and 2, let's fold that. Create a seam allowance. Now I do have a 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right. IO is next, which is indigo. Pretty sure it goes this way because of that straight edge right there. So I'm just going to hold this side, flip it over, and place it on here. Fold it back and go, yep, it covers it. We're going to go ahead and sew between 1 and 2. All right. I don't need to trim that seam allowance because it's right on the line. Okay. Between 1 and 2 is done. Let's find spot 3. Fold on the line. Trim it away. And we're going to grab EA. EA is pea pod. So that's going to go this way. We're going to put this on here, fold back and go, yep, that covers it. That's where I want it. We're going to sew between 2 and 3. I don't really need to get rid of that seam allowance, just need to roll it back. Putting this together, I still don't see how all these pieces are going to look. I mean, really? it's confusing me already. Like, you know. All right, spot 4. Let's fold this back. On to spot 4. Let's get rid of that excess seam allowance. And we're going to find NL again, which is nautical. This is the way I have it. I'm going to go ahead and flip it to the side and sew it on. Right there. All right, I don't need to get rid of that seam allowance because it's good. Oh yeah, it covers it just fine. Roll it back. I use my fingers to pry that open so that I have a nice crisp fold there until I can get to the iron. All right, peel it back and do between 4 and 5. Create your seam allowance. And P for black is our last one. This is where I'm going to sew. I'm going to hold that, flip it over, and we're going to sew the black on. All right, and I don't need to get rid of that seam allowance either because it's had a straight line to begin with. Roll it back. I'm just going to put a tiny little stitch right here in the corner. Hold that black piece down so that it doesn't flip back and move around. And now this one is done. And all these stitches will be in the seam allowance, so those will not be seen. All right, next, page 69. It only has one part to it with a bunch of pieces. So we're just going to go ahead and cut the paper away because it's not needed. Again, page 69 or E6A is what we're working on. Let's fold these lines. I would say that I am now a confident beginner with this whole thing. It's starting to go a lot better than it did when I first started, that's for sure. I still have the days where I have to seam rip and all that kind of stuff, but I'm managing. All right, so LE is in spot 1. LE is Limelight. So it's going to be, we're going to make sure that I have it where I need it. I'm going to adjust that just a little. I did cut this one quite tightly. Let's move that out of the way for a moment. I'm not going to let this shift. Let's make sure it didn't shift. Okay, we're good. And then I'm going to put a stitch down here. Okay, there's that. It's now on there. We're going to fold between 1 and 2. We're going to cut up, make a seam allowance. Now it's nice and straight. We're going to take 2, which is BI. BI is Bright Idea. I cut it like this. So I'm going to hold it on this side like that, flip it over, lay it on here. I'm also going to roll it back and make sure that it's landing where I need it to. All right, it is right there. So let's go ahead and hold it in place and sew between 1 and 2. All right, that's sewn. Just going to roll it back. That seam allowance seems pretty good. It's just jaggedy because of the way I cut it, but it covers where it's supposed to. It's literally right there on the edge, like this edge is on the seam allowance. I didn't give myself very much play with that one. All right, now between 2 and 3. 3 is QO. QO is Gecko. Okay, let's fold it, cut it. Grab Gecko. See which way it goes. This is the side I want to sew, so I'm going to hold that because I know that's the side. I'm going to roll this back and say, woo-wee, that's so close, but it's there. It's where it needs to be. All right. I'm going to go ahead and sew this on here very carefully, like, because the piece is nice and small. All right, let's make sure. Oh, good. Good, 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 good. It covered it. Press it first, then roll it. We're going to go ahead and open this up and fold between 3 and 4 now. And some of the paper is stuck right there. There we go. It's okay if some of the little pieces of paper from the corners end up coming out. That's perfectly fine because sometimes they're not going to pull away anyway. So you might as well get it now. All right, so IK is 4, which is pickle. This is the way I have it, so I'm going to hold that, flip it over, line it up. I'm going to make sure when I fold this that it lands where it's supposed to. Okay, good, it does. Go ahead and sew between 3 and 4. Well, actually I should fix that seam right there. It's kind of poking. Just a tiny sliver amount. All right, let's roll that back. And fold between 4 and 5. nice and straight. And piece 5 is EA, which is pea pod. Goes this way. So I'm going to hold the side that I want to sew, flip it over, line it up. I'm also going to roll it back and make sure. Perfect. That's what I want. But it's shifting as I do this. I'm going to make sure it's on there. All right, there we go. Now sew between 4 and 5. Go ahead and roll that back. Oh, good, it covers it. It really comes right to that edge. I'll roll it back. I'm going to throw a little safety stitch there, or else it's just going to flop around. And there we have E6A complete. Next is page 70. There's 2 parts to it, so here's part 1. I don't really need to, I'll get rid of right there. We're going to fold on our lines. A lot of pieces on this little skinny strip. 7 of them. Okay. Let's find piece 1 is QZ. QZ is balsam, I think? Yeah, balsam. All right, so we're going to pull that out. We're going to lay it on here. I can see through the light that it's covering it. Slide it over just a smidge. Right about there. I'm going to go ahead and turn it around. Good, that's good, that's good. And we're going to stitch it in place. I'm going to move that out of the way. We're going to fold between 1 and 2. Create a seam allowance. So curious as how this is going to turn out. So it's driving me nuts. I want to start putting them together. I should, but I'm going to wait to get all them pieced first. All right, UG is bluegrass. It looks like it's going this way. So I'm going to go ahead and lay it on here. Fold it over and go, yay, that's the way I want it. I'm going to hold it up to the light real quick and make sure. We're going to sew between 1 and 2. I'm going to flip it back and make sure it covers. It does. We're going to get rid of that excess seam allowance. I did cut this one big because the selvage, the little holes that are in the selvage were right there. So I didn't cut that perfect until after the fact. So that way those holes from the selvage, they're within the seam allowance instead of being instead of being right there on top so that you can see. I didn't want that. I wanted them hidden in there, but I'm making the best of all the fabric, so I am using right up to the selvage. All right, between 2 and 3 now. Let's cut this, make it a nice 1/4 inch. I'm going to go ahead and find YH, which just so happens to be Aloha. YH. So this is the side I'm sewing. I'm going to hold it, flip it over. I'm going to lay it on here, and then I'm going to roll it back and go, okay, that's how it goes. Sew it. And we're going to roll it back and make sure. Ooh, it's right there on the edge. We're going to get rid of that excess. Just a sliver, but it's enough to have to remove. This is a lighter color, so I can see right through it. But it's landing where it needs to. I'm going to just stitch right here in the corner, holding that down. All right, now between 1 and 4, 4 is HG. HG is, I don't know at this very second, but I'll tell you. HG is Hunter Green. All right, we're going to fold between 1 and 4. Make that beautiful seam allowance that nobody will ever see because it'll be inside of your quilt. We're going to grab our Hunter Green piece. And we're going to see which way I cut it. I'm not 100% sure which way I cut this one. So we need the magic light. Did I cut it that way? No, I did not. Did I cut it this way? No, I did not. I cut it this way. Making sure that it's covering that line. And no, I didn't cut it that way either. Did I cut it this way? Right there. Oh yeah, that's the way it's gonna go. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead. That's the side I'm going. Right here. I'll line it up. Sew it on. Between 1 and 4. I do want to make sure that it's covering. Oh man, no it isn't. First rip. It needs to go down. It was not in the right position. I spent all that time with the light. And there I go, a professional seam ripper at it. Woohoo! I got this. I think that's the thing I've become more professional with during this whole thing is some seam ripping. Or not. But we're doing it. Just know it happens. I laid that on the light a few times though, and it still did not land. It's a good thing to check like 5 bazillion times before you start, I'm telling you. But since I'm trying to record and I don't want to take forever, I can't record for 5 bazillion seconds while I try to find the correct direction. But this obviously has to be ripped out. Okay. We're going to do this one more time. Cross your fingers that it works. Hold the light again. Right, here's the side I'm sewing. If I go this way, no. If I go that way, no. If I go down more, literally to this edge, it still does not give me a 1/4 inch seam there. All right, let's see which way I cut it again, because for some reason it's not working. Goes that way. And I'm throwing things and just making a mess here. That's the side I want to sew. We're going to roll it over on this light and go, oh, hey, right about there. Yikes. That's cutting it real close. No. No. Okay, I did that wrong. Maybe. Maybe it goes this way. Let's see. No, it does not. All right, well, is it this way? Could be this way. Let's try that. No, it does not go that way. See, what I'm trying to do is have a 1/4 inch here and still land there and still have this covered and still have this end covered. For some strange reason, it's not doing none of the above. So I think it goes right here. We're going to hope and sew right there. There are times through this project that you will get confused just as much as me. Okay, that does cover it. Yippee, we got it on that try, and I don't need to get rid of that seam allowance either. Look at that. So I'm going to go ahead and roll it. And then we're going to go ahead and fold between 4 and 5. I'm also going to pull that paper there. Between 4 and 5. I'm going to create a seam allowance. And this time I actually have a seam allowance. It's a miracle. Miracles happen. Okay. Now 5 is P, which is black. That definitely goes that way. I don't need to question that one. Just going to line it up and sew it. And my piece did rip. So we're just going to sew it and try to hold it straight and flush with the other side. Okay, that looks good. Let's roll it over. Oh man, I don't have a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, this piece is going to drive me insane. We're going to scoot this one down too. Sorry, folks. Sometimes I drive myself crazy with this. Other times it goes so smoothly. I've already ripped the paper, so I'm going to try to be very careful with the paper as I do this. I'm just single ripping my stitches. But again, just breathe. Because you got this. Hopefully you don't got the same problem as me. Today was not the day to play with paper piecing. Oh, sorry. I know. That was silly, right? All right. Let's try that again. This time it needs to be brought down. Let's use the light, our special, wonderful light that was gifted to me. I want my paper and my piece right here. Let's roll that back from down here maybe. No, I don't have a 1/4 inch seam allowance, no matter what I do. Did I cut this too small? All right, we're going right here. Don't move. Hold your breath. It's got to work. That's where it looks the best. And this will be... Oh, come on. Did it cover it this time? Oh, yes. Ah, patience. Patience. Okay, I'm just going to finger press that one. I'm going to fold between 5 and 6 now. Oh, yeah, these little tiny pieces. I'm going to cut that away, and this time I actually have a seam allowance. The first time it did not. That's why I got frustrated with it. All right, EA is P-pod. That would be this one right here. I'm going to go ahead, put it on this side. Oh, that definitely is the right size. I wonder what I'm thinking sometimes when I'm cutting these, because I'm like, some of them come out the right size every time, and then some of them are just like little lost pieces. All right, so there's that. Now let's fold between 6 and 7. Make a seam allowance, and the last piece is obviously already right next to me. Seven is LE. LE is Limelight. So that is going to go right here. Just going to roll that back, hold it right here, and go. Yep, that's where it goes. So we're going to go ahead and sew between 6 and 7. I'm even sewing slow because I want to make sure that it covers it right there. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch this end right here so that it stays where I want it. Ta-da! I've managed to sew, where is it? E7E or page 70, part 1 of it. All right, page 70, the bigger part. Let's get on that. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all this extra paper. Also today, I do have to point something out. So let's take a second to point something out. All right, here's the book because I got to point it out from the book. On our color charts, right here, your GL is listed in your book. GL is Glacier. It's listed as a scrap, a 5 by 5 by 9 inch scrap, 5.5 by 9 inch scrap. It is actually a fat 16th. So if you are doing it in order like I am, where all the fat quarters together, fat 8ths are together, fat 16ths are together, scraps are together, and so on, just know that Glacier, GL, Glacier, is a fat 16th and not a scrap. And it even has it listed on the big page, Glacier, as a scrap as well, but it's actually a fat 16th. And also, it's listed in the back of the book under GL. Hold on, just going to take me 2 seconds to get to it. GL right here, Glacier is also listed as a scrap right here, but it is a fat 16th. So I just want to make sure I pointed that out. I actually forgot to write on this one. So that way you know that you're not losing your mind if you do not find Glacier in your scrap pile. So just made sure to point that out to you guys while I was remembering it. All right, let's fold our paper. Yeah, today was the first time I pulled the GL. So that's why I wanted to make sure to let you guys know. And I will inform Legit Kits as well that GL is mismarked on all of the pages. That way, in case you are doing it that way, that it's the way I am and everything is in piles of a certain size. That way it's easier to find. All right, all of my, oh, no, not all. Oh, yeah, they are. Yeah. Yeah, okay, I did fold them all. All right, 1, LE. LE is Limelight. Let's grab that. LE is going to go right here. Just going to make sure that I have it lined up properly, and I do. I'm going to go ahead and turn it and sew it. And it accidentally hit you guys on the camera mount. Okay, good. It didn't like do anything funky. All right, and I'm going to sew on this side too. All right, 2 is AN. So we are going to find our AN, which is candy green, right after we create a seam allowance between 1 and 2. AN, let's pull that out. And that I have going this direction. I automatically should have it good. Stay. It's going to go this way. We're going to roll it back and make sure. Come up just a smidge. There we go. All right, let's sew between 1 and 2. All right. That is now sewn. Oh, look at that. We have a nice long shredding piece sticking out. We're going to snip. Oh, it came out on its own. I was going to say I was going to snip it away. All right, so I'm just going to roll it back. So that's nice and crisp. We're going to go ahead and go between 2 and 3. Between 2 and 3, let's go ahead and make that cut into the seam. We're going to find QZ. QZ is balsam. All right, here we go. QZ. I know it's a funky shaped piece, but I know I cut it funky because I cut from the bottom of the piece, from the bottom of the piece of fabric. All right. And that means we are out of bobbin. Okay. So that is now sewn on there. I really don't need to get rid of that seam allowance. It looks pretty good to me. So I'm just going to go ahead and roll it back. This piece does stick out funky. That's only because I cut the piece funky. All right, UG between 3 and 4. UG is bluegrass. Come on. There we go. So between 3 and 4. We're going to get rid of that big funky piece now, because the way I cut it. All right, UG is bluegrass. All right, how did I cut that? I cut it this way, so I'm going to put it on here this way. I'm going to roll it back and make sure it looks good to me. Just like that. I'm going to sew between 3 and 4. There we go. Making sure, yep, that looks good, but I'm going to get rid of that excess. Just a sliver. And then we're going to roll it back. Okay. And put a little stitch down here. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't always put the stitch, but I'm trying to make sure that I do, because I definitely don't want these ripping the paper because it was loose, the way I'm storing things, you know, for now until we get them all put together. We want them to stay on the paper as best as possible for now. All right, 5 is LM, which is lime. That would be this guy right here. He is oversized. I'm gonna go ahead and put it here. Lining up those 2 seams. I won't have much to trim away, but I also have the selvage here, so I definitely want to make sure that that is within the seam or away from the seam, because I don't want it at the edge of the block. All right, go ahead and roll that back. And my next one is between 5 and 6. 6 is QO, which is gecko. Let's make that seam allowance first. I have a lot of bulk coming right here. All right, so let's find QO, gecko, that's this guy, and he goes this way. So we're going to go ahead and lay this on here. I'm sure that's going to cover, and it does. Oh yeah, perfect. Okay. 5 and 6 line. All right. Oh, I should trim some of that away. Just a sliver, but that sliver matters. All right. So I'm going to go back with it. And we're going to add that last piece between 6 and 7, which is PL. PL is palm. Again, I have a lot of bulk right here. So this little sliver right here is going to be going through a lot of bulk. I have it cut this way, so we're going to go right here. I'm going to be super careful with this one because, again, it's just a sliver. It's so tiny. I'm going to make sure that it covers. Oh, and it does. It is on that edge. I'm just going to finger press that back. Give it a nice tight roll, even over this big lump right here. I'm going to stitch this little tiny corner down so that it stays. Just a couple stitches in it to hold it. All right, so that is now complete. I think that was page 70. This was piece 2 of it. Now I'm going to go ahead and put you into time lapse while I do the rest of all of my pages, because you pretty much have the idea of what I'm doing. So there we have it, week 11, Skulliver, done. I'm so glad it's done because I did have quite a few problems this week. It happens every week. Obviously, I cannot control how things are going to lay and move and shift and adjust, but just breathe because you can do this too. Anyways, I filed them all, which you saw, and that's it. I'm completed for the week. So I will see you in week 12. Bye.